Well, g'day everyone, and welcome again to Regatta Reviews. Big weekend happened, 3 days of racing. The RV State Championships occurred. Alan, welcome. How are you today?
I'm well, Guy, and we
That's
had
fine.
a weekend of bonding up there at
Oh.
Wendouree at the weekend.
Oh, well, we'll find out more about that very shortly.
Mhm.
Binky, thanks for joining us yet again.
Good evening. How are we?
I'm very well. I'm very
Very
well.
well.
Now, before we break into it, I should highlight a little bit of housekeeping here, just to remind everyone, if they haven't seen the flyer that's already started going around, we have our big live show coming up on the 14th of March at 7 p.m. Assuming we can hit record, well, we don't need to record, it'll be live, but assuming I can press the right buttons and it actually works, that'll be fantastic. Some great guests joining us, including the former Mayor of Geelong. She said she knows nothing of rowing, but that doesn't matter. That's not what we want to talk to her about. So I think that'll be pretty exciting. Do or Die is the name of the show, or being a play on words, do or die. I know, very clever. I did call it something else, but I got told by Piper as she was designing the artwork for me that you just can't call it that at Schoolgirls. I'm like, I don't know why, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's get into it. Alan, you shared some very interesting news with me today. Something about the Barwon and some algae.
Yes. Well, late in the afternoon on Saturday, one of the schools mentioned to me that they were going to train on the Barwon on Sunday, but the Barwon is infested with blossoms of presumably blue-green algae, and the river's closed. So I have no idea how you get rid of it apart from a thunderstorm, or
Which is nothing
persistent
like
rain.
that is on the horizon, is it, at this point?
Not at this point. I'm sure the Brains Trust down there have an idea, but at the moment anyway, that's a bit of a hurdle, I would have thought.
That happened a few years ago and threatened to cancel. Was it Head of the Schoolgirls or one of the regattas a few years ago?
I
remember.
reckon there's certainly been a cancelled regatta because of it. Now that you mention
Carrum.
that, Binky.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It
Carrum.
wouldn't have been Head of Schoolgirls. Oh,
No,
Karen,
it
was
was
it?
Carrum, yeah.
Ah, yeah.
The first Furbank Regatta got cancelled at Carrum and was moved to the Barwon, but I can't remember the Barwon being cancelled. But I mean, your memory fades over the years. But you'd like to think the Head of Schoolgirls Committee's got a plan B, but look, we're still 10 days out, so we don't want to be too alarmist. But
No. We
it's
don't
certainly happening. And I don't know, Guy, if you read any of the Geelong press this afternoon, but I read a little bit during the day, and it's certainly closed. That's one thing.
Well, it's certainly closed, and I know certainly from a triathlon perspective, not the blue-green algae, but we have a situation when it rains that the water flushes out into the bay, and becomes a bit grim, and they cancel swims all the time when there's a bit of rain before a triathlon. I assume it's the same thing, and basically when the EPA say it's not happening, it's not happening. End of story. So I don't think it's a case of, hey, it's the Head of Schoolgirls, we can do what we want. I think if they're shutting it down, they're shutting it down.
It'd be
aren't
Parks Victoria or someone like that would
they?
be the person to call it.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but what do you reckon the backup? You know what I reckon the backup should be? And obviously the first thought would be Ballarat. It can't be Ngambie because they've got Scotch Mercs there, but Ballarat would be the first thought. But how's this for a crazy thought? Carrum. Because at least the accommodation isn't the biggest problem then, because what is there, 3,000 competitors in Head of the Schoolgirls or something ridiculous? You can't just put up a few tents.
Although, Ballarat is accessible for people from Melbourne,
Day trips.
and they
a lot of
know how
driving,
to run a regatta. They do it on a regular basis. So I suppose.
Yeah. But the girls have to be there potentially, for 3 days. So
Not if you're at Ballarat, because if you I remember about 8 years ago when I was a bit anti-Geelong in those days, I actually redesigned Head of Schoolgirls to be in Ballarat. It took about 2/3 of the time. You could do it in 2 days. Anyway, that's being a bit supercilious now, because it
takes the fun out of it, though, Alan. Why go to 2 days when you can do 3 days of partying? I think you've missed the boat completely. Pardon
The idea was to reduce the time to appease the principals. That was so. I did an exercise. I got it down to 140 races actually.
Oh,
So I did it, but I remember presenting it to the then president of the Rowing Victoria, and he said, "Oh no, that won't work." So it's gone into the dustbin, I think.
Well, the good
Right.
thing about Head of the Schoolgirls, though, is that everyone gets a final.
Yeah.
And so that just takes a lot of time, but it means that they all go out with a bang.
yeah.
I don't think that's a bad
And
thing.
then the smaller schools, and again, as I keep saying, and being involved in Fintona, it could be a D final. They still get a highlight of potentially winning a final. I think that's great.
Yeah, on a larger lane course, you don't need all those reps and things. That's how you save time. Anyway,
True. Yeah.
All right. So
I think
let's,
Binky's starting tonight, isn't she, Guy?
yeah. Well, Binky, you were there Friday. Were you there Friday?
Yeah, I was there Friday, beautiful sunny afternoon. We were putting on sunscreen. But yeah, a bit of a cross headwind that made the racing a bit slow. So Friday starts at lunchtime or just after lunch. They were running the under 21 singles, doubles, pairs, and quads, and the same for the open and lightweights. And then the open coxless ballers as well were raced in the afternoon. All the results were pretty much as expected. A lot of sort of distance, I think, because of the cross headwind, and the slow racing. Quite a few races that were not all that exciting to watch, except for in the men's under 21 singles. That was a very tight first, second, and third. That was really exciting to watch.
Yep.
Between Charlie Radin won that one, Max Curry came
A
second.
bit of a shout out to Max from
beating,
the Fine Rowing Club at Hawthorn, where of course I'm a member. Well done.
and the Wendouree Ballarat sculler who came third by a fraction of a second. So that was a really exciting race. And yes, all the under 21 events. The sad thing about the under 21 events now is that all the under 19s are having to race under that age category. So you've got quite a considerable age gap between some of the competitors. And I do feel that some of the under 19s are then cheated out of their title, or so I did think, in the singles, which is the race that I'm predominantly there to watch, Zara won the under 21 state title, and I'll say that Ella won the under 19 because had we had that event this year, that would have been her
I see. Yes.
medal.
Yep.
She's back in form, isn't she? I spoke to her at the
She rode
weekend,
well.
and I asked her about her sixth at the New South Wales, and she said, "Well, Alan, 4 of the best girls were in my heat." And she also said that she hasn't had the chance this year because the school's concentrating on quads, and she just hasn't had a chance to race. And I thought the other highlight in that event, Binky, was Alyssa Mirabelli, who's been a star this year, hasn't she? I mean, she won Head of Schoolgirls in 2021 with her sister in doubles, and she's really come on this year. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think she's been competing well, and medalled in the final as well, which was a really good result for her. And there were a lot of the same faces that we see every week in the smaller boats. The results were kind of as expected. And then, it was a lovely afternoon, but come Saturday morning, the temperature dropped and the conditions were very different to Friday.
Went back to being Ballarat. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, look, down at the finish line, it was a bit chilly, but at the start it was really quite challenging for the rowers, and I think they had a lot of trouble with the starts.
So just getting back to the Friday thing and the comments there with the under 21, under 19s. Alan, you've mentioned it a lot. What's the reason again why there's no under 19s in?
Well, 2 years ago, where are we? February, March. 20 months ago, there was a conference, and the school representatives decided that the regattas were too long, and that was forwarded onto Rowing Victoria.
Right.
And Rowing Victoria decided that the under 19 events had to go, and you might recall the under-19s were flooded with seconds to fifths and sixths, which was true. I mean, I had a devil of a job writing those up because they were so big. And also they were flooded with entries in seniors.
Yep.
And that was considered to be a major problem. Mind you, they've been replaced with the club events expanding. So
yeah,
I think you've just changed one for the other. I don't know. I mean, but the problem is that with regattas now, you've got most of the 8 schools leaving at 11:30 in the morning because there's no under-19 events for their non-elite crews to row in the afternoon. And you've got the 4-seater schools often not rowing in the morning because unless they row at 8, I mean, there's only under 21 quads and 4s. There's nothing for them to row in the morning, so they turn up at lunchtime. I mean, if you're a Fintoner or a Corowa parent, you haven't seen an E1 race because you're rocking up at midday while all the others are leaving. Now, that's...
I think it was really the big schools that dominate. It suited them. It really doesn't suit the smaller schools and the clubs.
Yeah.
But the big schools win.
Well, that
was how I think, I actually did call up and speak to someone about it last year because I was furious that was being taken away from the club rowers. And look, it's very hard to put together a crew boat if you've got one, under 19 from this club and one under 19 from that club. There are not so many opportunities to race. So unless they go into the 1,000-metre club races.
Yeah, and many more are.
It's really hard to prepare for nationals and for the big events unless you do a lot of racing. And taking away those races, it's a shame, but it is what it is. So I just wanted to say that, those under 19s that were rowing up in the under 21 category deserve a little mention.
Yeah, fair point. And is this also why, if I row in C grade, for argument's sake, I'm seeing so many more kids?
Yeah,
they're rowing up into the club C grade.
You're seeing many more kids rowing on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Lots more. I mean, that's why Sunday's so big now.
Yeah. And I, for one, don't like it because they're hard to beat.
No, I know. They're hard to beat. Binky, just on Friday, before we go on, Zara, of course, won the single scull. The CV Max, which is obviously Katie and Clodagh, won the under 21 double scull. I asked Katie on Saturday whether she was still 15, and she is. So Katie and Clodagh have won in 8:42. So
Katie entered about 100 events over the States.
She's won 7 medals, Binky.
My
God.
Going in everything. And
she's taller than you think too. I was standing. I'm a shorty, but anyway. And then the girls from Lily Rose and Beatrix Hearn were second there. And of course, in the final one there was the pair where one of the MUBC crews, one of the favoured crews, didn't finish because I believe they broke a rudder. But the interesting thing there was the Lucy Richardson, our world's bronze medalist in a pair, joined up with Georgia Montague, who I didn't know anything about, but she's from Queensland, and they won quite comfortably by a 50
seconds. They won by a country mile, and it was very classy rowing in that race.
Yeah. It was interesting in that race, Binky, that the young women who'd actually had experience in pairs did a lot better than the more fancied rowers that hadn't done. And I was speaking to one of the mothers of one of the more fancied rowers, and she said, well, they just haven't rowed pairs. And
I'd argue with that, but most of those more experienced rowers do have to row pairs as part of their trials.
Yeah, they'll get better.
So on.
Yeah.
I think the weather, if you're not, as experienced in a small boat, you get a bit nervous rowing in cross headwinds and stuff like that. So that might be a factor.
Yeah.
But at that level, I think you should be able to row a small boat.
Yeah. Well, those were great events on the Friday. I was watching those results come in.
Yeah, numbers, as you mentioned last week, the numbers were a bit down, and there were a few events that were combined. which got us all
Yeah.
confused looking at an event where there's some, hang on, they've got 4 oars and they've got 8.
Yeah, it's funny when you look
Um,
at that coming together. It doesn't make any sense, but at
yeah,
least
yeah,
they get to have a row.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so it was a successful afternoon, and yeah, just a bit more pleasant as a spectator than it was on Saturday.
Mm.
Actually,
I got
just
sunburnt,
sorry
so-
on that, Binky. It does remind me of a funny story up at the Rutherglen Regatta back in January, where Powerhouse decided to front up to the fours race in a quad, and it wasn't a combined event. They just rocked up with the wrong boat.
That's happened before. It used to be a Caulfield Grammar trick,
Yeah, well, that's
unintentional trick.
why wouldn't you give that a crack? So
I've
then
seen
the
it
joke
happen
was,
before.
let's turn up to an eights event as an octo.
But look, something that I've just remembered something that crossed my mind actually watching the rowing this weekend is just the responsibility of coaches of young or new rowers, whether they're young or not, are not just there to teach them how to row. They need to teach them how to rig, the river rules, and a bit of the rowing etiquette is quickly evaporating. So I did witness a couple of times crews rowing off the finish before other crews had finished, which is just such a terrible thing to do. But not only is it rude, or bad-mannered, should I say, it is also at Ballarat really dangerous. So they're crossing the finish line as crews are coming through, and there is no room to, you know, you're checking
no
the
room
boat
down there at
the
all.
end. And it did occur to me that I don't think some of the young coaches even sort of have been taught that etiquette.
No.
I remember when we were learning to row, you know, a million years ago, that was drummed into us that you wait in your lane, you do not cross any lane, you wait for everyone to finish.
Yep.
And then you congratulate each other.
Yep.
The crews,
3 cheers.
the two sets of hip hip hoorays.
Yep.
You know, one for the winning crew and then the winning crew for everybody else. And it's a nice way to show respect for one another, but particularly the rowing off before a race is finished.
I think it's disgusting, to be honest. I mean, what are they thinking?
Well, it happened many times, and I have witnessed it over the years a number of times.
It's very easily fixed, like in swimming.
Well,
If
there
you
used to be, remember, there used to be marshals down at the end that would make you all leave in the order of your lanes, but I don't think there's enough people to do that now.
No, but it is a simple thing to say, right, you wait until the last person's finished across the line. That's just common
Just out of
courtesy.
respect.
Yeah, I don't know if
I did notice the elites when they rode the Ngambie Gold, they certainly did wait for everyone to finish and showed respect for those amateur rowers who are having a go as well. Anyway, that was my little observation that I thought
very good
really
point.
We should mention.
Yep.
Nikki's beef.
And I think, for the coaches, etiquette is part of it. And, respecting your cops, respecting the other, your coach and your other crew members. It's all part of rowing, and it's what makes rowing such a wonderful sport. So
Brilliantly said, Binky. I love that. That's excellent. And so true. Anyway.
It makes me sound really old and crotchety. Anyway.
No, not at all. That's what sport is. We forget what sport's about, especially for kids. It's not about going out and winning. I mean, of course, that's pretty damn nice, isn't it? But it's the lessons that you get, the life lessons that you get from it. And what you're talking about here is all about that. 100%.
And it's also about, responsibility for, rigging the boat and checking, have I packed everything that I need, and all of the other things that go with it. Yeah. That I think, a lot of the coaches are not particularly experienced as well, but these are the other things they need to think about teaching their crews and preparing them for regattas like this. And even, seeing crews that have not rowed at Ballarat before, when you get to your first Ballarat regatta and you realise that you need a puffer coat, and you need like
Oh, yeah,
it's even telling them to
yeah.
prepare warm clothing and
Yeah.
all of that.
And how long it takes you to get down to the start.
Yes.
Well,
all of those.
that's why I mentioned bonding. The guy, there was a lot of bonding at the weekend. There was
Oh, you did
lots of
say
nice
bonding? Yeah.
there was nice bonding on the podium. I
Right.
like the fact that Dicks have first, second, and third medals. I like the
Yep. No, that is
gold,
that is
silver,
good.
bronze. I think that's
Yep.
great.
Yep, agree with
And
that.
there was too much bonding at the start because the regatta was, at lunchtime it was an hour and a quarter behind.
Oh,
Lunch
gosh.
was totally. Poor old Richard. He said at one stage there, "I'll just find out from RV what's happening with the times," and he disappointingly came back and said, "Oh, there's no lunch." And they were already a quarter of an hour behind as they went into the afternoon session. But that's RV's problem; they can deal with that.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing on bonding is that if you look at your medal table, no one was dominant. Everybody had a go.
Yes. I clicked on I only found out about this medals tab when we were talking about it the other day.
Did you?
I didn't
don't
even
look
know it
often.
existed.
No, I don't look often, but I did look this afternoon,
I like it.
and that's kind of nice because you've got schools there winning.
Yeah.
And there were lots of highlights and interest during the day. In the eights, shall we start with them? We usually do.
Yeah, go.
Well, what happened there in the schoolgirl eight is that MGGS, and these results in the finals were reflected in the heats as well. MGGS has won by 2.5 seconds from Loretto Turak. Then there was a gap of about 8 seconds to St Catharines. St Catharines threatened in the race, but just fell away at the end. Furbank were 4 seconds further back. Then there was another 15 or 14 seconds back to Wesley. So that that group there, those groups, the second group of St Catharines, Furbank, Wesley, and Geelong Grammar absolutely match.
Yep.
You might find this hard to believe, but MLC ran last.
I was about to ask you what happened.
Well,
there?
I didn't pick this up until the day because I write up the eights first. I hadn't noticed they'd changed, but their second, sixth, seventh, eighth, and Cox were all missing on the day.
Oh.
And I asked a random MLC parent what happened, and she said, "Oh, they're all sick." And I thought to myself, well. Oh, no, she didn't. I beg your pardon. No, she said they're all injured. And then I thought, that's a bit strange. Can they all be injured? And they may have all had COVID. Whatever, they weren't there.
Yep.
And it doesn't really matter what happened to them, but they were out. And that was a shame. But again here, MGGS and Loretto Turak and MLC probably going to control this event.
Yep.
St Catharines is the only boat that can break that 3 up.
Yep.
And will probably be the 4th boat in the A final ahead of Schoolgirls. In the B final, Genazzano just knocked off Geelong College. Can't see that Wesley and Geelong College benefit from their trip to Sydney, but they probably just.
Hey, Alan, the results are showing a dead heat for the B final.
Yeah,
Geelong
that's
College
right. There was about 0.8 of a second difference. Was it a dead heat or was it
showing a dead heat? 8:01.11.
Oh yes, that's right. It was. There was another one that was even numbers. Yeah. That's disappointing for Geelong College because, as you know, Genazzano's had a pretty rough season.
Yeah. And
Geelong College since Sydney has actually gone backwards, as has Wesley. So I think it's fine if you go to Sydney if you're a small boat. I'm not sure you need to go to Sydney for New South Wales champs if you're a big boat.
Yeah.
And
I think though some of the numbers reflect the really challenging conditions.
Yes.
Some of the race results, there was some very messy starts. The conditions up at the start were really quite challenging, and I think survival rowing the first 100 metres.
500,
Wesley had a peach of a lane though. Just in under 21s, MUBC won by 4 seconds. Interestingly, in that race, Loretto Turak beat MGGS, but in underage in the afternoon first cup. Those results over the years have always been a bit difficult. You shouldn't rely on those, but what that means is those two crews are very close. And as I noticed on the podium, they were very friendly, which is a bit different from last year.
Wow.
It wasn't always the case, but that's good. Geelong Grammar slightly nudged out Wesley there in that race. What that really means is you've got the top three. I wouldn't read anything into MLC. They'll still be in the top three, I think.
Yeah.
And in Division 2, Loretto Turak actually made the start this week. Won by 6 seconds from MGGS. This was the one where they had even. This is the one I mistook for the other event. MLC and St Catherine's both recorded an 8:03, but it was 0.83 of a second.
Oh, yep, 0.83, yeah.
So you can see that St Catherine's actually could break into the top three there. I know their coach is really confident because I've spoken to him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of good because we don't want the top three dominating everywhere.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
So that's the eights. That's an interesting competition. It's not the most interesting. It is for most people, though, because they love the eights. But it's the rankings are more or less set, I think.
Yep.
Would you agree, Binky? Do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, I have a bit of bias here.
That's all right. You're allowed to have bias, Becky.
I think Loretto still have a chance to.
Yeah, absolutely.
To win that one. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a jovial lot, Loretto. They're good. We can quickly go through fours because you can forget about under 21 fours because there was only Melbourne University's first and seconds, and that's how they finished. The schoolgirl stuff was interesting because Furbank, with their split 8, won again. That's 3 regattas in a row. The interesting thing there is to see whether a certain person actually nominates them in the under 19 fours at Nationals. And Nationals entries are closed in about 3.5 hours' time.
Yeah.
So so they're good, and they probably would. I've looked at that fleet. That under 19 fours fleet isn't that strong, so they might do that. Certainly, one of the mothers thinks so because she already knows when they're racing. She's looked up the schedule. Clarendon actually was the fours crew that actually was second in 8:17. Loretto Ballarat closed from where they were at the Heather Lake in an 8:20. I thought Caulfield Grammar were a smidgen disappointing in an 8:25. They were actually in the head of Schoolgirls fleet. So there's only 4 boats in the head of Schoolgirls fleet, which is Ballarat, Clarendon, Loretto Ballarat, and Ballarat High School. I should show you this. A certain person from Ballarat Grammar said to me, the girls didn't adapt to fours this year, so we're rowing quads. There you are.
Yeah, there it is.
So that person said to me, that's what happened. So anyway, there you are. And
are we not allowed to mention that, Alan?
No, you're not. No, I just gave you a bit of a tip. Now, in seconds is really exciting. Seconds in fours, often eights, is more interesting than the first in terms of the competition. Yep. Loretto Ballarat won by 2 seconds over Clarendon. Grammar was an 8:50, and Ballarat High was a 9:24. At the head of schools, again, there's only 4 crews, and they're the 4. So you'd have to think that would be Loretto, Ballarat, and Clarendon.
Yep.
Okay. Ballarat, Clarendon is entering a lot of crews at Nationals, including their inters. So that's what they're doing. Shall I keep going, or do I have a rest?
There you go. Roll. You're on a roll. You're on a roll. Absolutely.
I'm on a roll, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this was particularly interesting. In under 21 quads, which has been a ripper event all season, all of the favoured boats were drawn in with the one heat. Now, I haven't seen this happen for a long time. Now, MGC scratched from the morning event because of apparently one of their rowers had a sore back. So you had Gippsland and Albert Park. So Gippsland's won by 10 seconds from Albert Park. Then you had Strathy's first. Then you had the inters from Strathie, Toorak College, and MGC's inters who came from the other heat. Now, Barwon didn't make the final. Barwon are sort of off the boil.
Yep.
Strathie is still quite all right.
Weren't Barwon on fire at the start of the season?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things happened there. I think that not being in a school program might have hurt them a bit. And I think there's one other issue, which I'm going to let go through to the keeper, that might be affecting them as well.
Yep.
but I just don't think they're in the top group anymore. But I'll go through that in a second. Albert Park College won't row as a quad at Head of Schoolgirls, but they will at Nationals. So this is very clever. Virginia Lee's doing this well. So she's got her girls rowing in doubles at Head of Schoolgirls, where now Wrighton are out of that doubles event. They'll be first and second. So they'll get gold and silver in the doubles event at Head of Schoolgirls, but they'll be no good at Nationals because all those northern state small boaters are too strong for them. So she's putting them in the quad event, which is smart. Just remember, Gippsland beat Strathy by 13 seconds there, and you'll see why that's important in a moment. So in the big race, the Q1 in the afternoon, well, Wrighton looked magnificent. I mean, that school never delivers a bad senior boat, but MGC are also rather magnificent. There was 1.28 seconds between those two.
Yep.
MGGS's split second 8 were 8:17. That's not relevant for Head of Schoolgirls, but it is for Nationals because that boat's rowing in this division in Nats.
Right.
Strathy were in 8:22. Now, that means Wrighton's been beaten Strathy by 11 seconds. And as Gippsland's director of rowing said to me, we beat them by 13 seconds. So there's 3 boats in this now. There were 6. There's Wrighton, Gippsland, Grammar and MGC. Strathy are next. They're stronger than Barwon. Corowa had their stroke actually had COVID. And Ballarat Grammar, who won the B final in Q1, I don't think are strong enough. I mean, you just can't swap over that quickly and expect to achieve miracles. And MGC rode, I mean, I just think they're a great crew. And that Wrighton crew just look like Wrighton from the last 10 years.
Yeah.
They just look great. So I think there's 3 there now. And Corowa, Ballarat Grammar and Barwon are going to have to do something pretty good, pretty marvellous to actually make that A final. Okay. Questions, comments, disagreements?
No. Well, one couldn't disagree with you, Alan, because I still get lost in all of this, and
that's all right.
You know,
I'm just looking through the entries for Nationals as you're talking about that, and it's interesting. There are 43 single scullers. The single scull events are huge at Nationals.
Have a look at the
43
quads.
in the Schoolgirls single scull, and entries aren't closed yet. Only 3 of them are Victorians, though.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Have a look at the quad entries, Binky. There's too many Victorian entries. We're entering.
Really?
We're entering some boats that just have no chance of making the A final.
Yeah, you don't really want to go to Nationals without at least a hope of
doing something. Anyway,
getting through. But Alice Joyce did well on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm about to get to her. You've jumped out of sequence.
She's then entered in the Schoolgirls event at Nationals as well.
She is. She'll do well. Now, can I just do the finish off quads and then I'll do Alice straight after. Furbanks into first one, and they're rowing 8 in an 8:24. They're rowing under 17s at Nats. And importantly, Haileybury did an 8:29, MGC did an 8:33, and Strathy did an 8:36. Now, those 3 with Wrighton had what in race car driving you call a mechanical.
Right.
I think they broke an oar. You'll know better than I.
Oh.
When the oars appearing horizontal across the fuselage, after about 500 metres, you've got a problem. So I've always learnt never underestimate Wrighton. So I reckon there's that 4. Coral really disappointed there. They were second last time, finished 8th. So I've marked their card rather. But Haileybury, that's that marvellous crew I've been excited about all season.
Yep.
So good luck to them. Good luck to MGC. Strathy are really coming on. And good luck to the Wrighton girls because they would have been disappointed. We better do single sculls before doubles since Pinky's mentioned it. Mm-hmm. Now, Alice Joyce, as Alice won that event on Saturday, I said, well done, Alice. She said, I'm stoked. Well, stoked isn't a word in my vocabulary.
Oh, come on, Alan.
I know what it means, but it's not something I'd use. And the other thing is, I was talking to Alice earlier. She's quite tall. I hadn't realised how tall she is. She's a good 6 footer.
Yeah.
She's just a really great competitor. No matter where she comes and what she does, she's happy, and she's just one of those girls
fabulous.
that all the other rowers love. Yeah,
That's right. Anyway, she said, I'm stoked as she went back to the podium, and I good luck to her. That was a fascinating strategic race because Alice and Ella Geran were in the same heat, and they just waltzed down the water, and Ella ran second. Well, perhaps Ella should have won that heat because she got a crappy lane in the final, and she's only lost by 2 seconds in the final.
Yeah, 2 seconds in a singles, nothing.
Well, yeah. So Alice had lane 5 in the final, and of course Ella's copped lane 7. So if you think about it, if they'd thought about that earlier, that things might have been different. And of course we had our perennial place getters, Lily Rose Hall-Kraus 3rd and Beatrix Hearn 4th. Interesting, Constantina Kafasis, I noticed, isn't racing ahead of Schoolgirls, Binky. And she's not entered at nationals, which is, well, she wasn't when I looked this morning anyway.
I believe she's entered for nationals, and I'll just.
Well, she might be because I only looked this morning, but she's not ahead of Schoolgirls. So that was a great race. That 2 seconds between Alice and Ella, and finally doubles.
Have the head of the Schoolgirls entries closed?
Yeah, so she's not in. Her sister is, but not hers. Anyway. And look, double sculls, the CV Max in an 8:36 win again.
Yeah.
Then the Gippsland crew of Harrison and Tavaski, which are in the quad ahead of Schoolgirls, they were second. And then you get the real doubles that are going to row ahead of Schoolgirls, Payne and Lulu Gleeson Payne in 8:42. The Corowa girls with the C from New South Wales, they were 4th, and they won't be ahead of Schoolgirls in a double. And then you get the other APC pair. APC are going to run 1st and 2nd in there, and that's going to be gold and silver to them.
Yeah,
which is great. And I think I did make a note here that double scull fleet at head of Schoolgirls is quite weak. Once you take the APC girls out, there's lots of newcomers in that fleet. I don't think it's very strong.
So while we're looking at these results, with head of Schoolgirls, they can only row one race, right?
Well,
so some of these doubles won't be actually participating in this event. Is that right? Because they might be in quads.
You've got to be a bit careful this year because some schools have entered their girls twice and then all make a decision as to where they go.
Oh yeah.
And you've got to realise sometimes the committee, and I think we mentioned this last week, sometimes the committee, if you've got like a Division 4 junior crew and there's, say, Grace Besley in there rowing, but she's sort of a single sculler as well. Every now and again they let them row twice, and that happens each year to about 5 girls. So sometimes they do double, but usually it's when the committee makes a decision to let them do that. And it does happen. And of course, coxes you often see are coxed up about 2, 3, 4 times.
Yeah, just back here. All that sort of becomes a bit of a thing.
Coxes, I can think of a Furbank Cox that's won more gold medals ahead of Schoolgirls and most this year. The Cox are just about every crew.
I've just checked, Alan, the entries. KK is in a few events at nationals, but not at head of the Schoolgirls. And I wonder, sometimes because the entry system with head of the Schoolgirls is different, and she hasn't been racing for her school this season, the school needs to write a letter to enter her, and they may not have chosen.
Oh, I see.
Which would be a shame. But she's actually rowing in the under-19 single, in the Schoolgirls single, and in a composite with Sydney Rowing Club.
Good.
The quad at nationals, so she'll get it. That's one of the great things that David does for the girls is he's well connected, so they get to do these composites with interstate crews, which are always.
Well, I noticed one of the Furbank girls is actually rowing in a coxless open quad scull as a stroke, so she's in there with some interstate girls, interstate women sort of thing. It was really interesting. I just looked because I was fishing around to see what that Furbank First 4 was doing today. So I looked them up, and lo and behold, there she is by herself. I thought, gee, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What a great experience for her.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So I thought that was a really good regatta.
Yep.
You know, I don't get too annoyed when it's late because I tend to watch all of the events. I mean, I don't know. I don't think the parents worry too much about the lunch break because, frankly, most of them, you know, unless you're going down to the yacht club or somewhere up at Ballarat, most of them
it doesn't matter. You're
too
there
fussed
anyway.
about the lunch break anyway. Are they?
No. I think it's more for the officials, isn't it? The lunch break.
Well, and poor Richard, who
He needs a break. Yeah, he's been talking all day.
And also the poor boat holders. It was they were really struggling to hold on to. There were a couple of running starts actually because the boat holders were just getting slammed with the weather and it didn't look like
the boat break down. Didn't one of their RV's boats break down?
I think
or something?
one of the boats got caught on a buoy or something. There were so many rumours going around. Oh, there's been a quad sink and there's this and that. It's hard to know what to attribute the delays to, but maybe it was just some of all of it.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, that's hell of a weekend, wasn't it?
It was exhausting.
Yeah.
Well, some of those.
To Zara, you know, it's exhausting watching rowing.
Well, the next one will be more exhausting for you, won't it? The next one will be more exhausting for you. With
well, some of those fleets are still wide open, and those interfleets, particularly Division 1 in quads, is completely open.
Yeah.
You know what those elite fleets are in juniors. I mean, very interesting indeed. So I'm looking forward to all that, and I'm just about to write up. I've actually finished writing up the prelim, and I'm about to write up a few other things.
Good to have a few mysteries going into Head of the Schoolgirls. You know, we do have some of those divisions where we really don't know who's going to prevail at the end. So that's
I like being surprised. I mean, I remember a few years ago when Geelong College finished second in 8 Division 1, that was a complete surprise. You know, it was about 5 years ago. Everybody was stunned. And I love all that sort of. I actually like being wrong.
What did you say your track record was last year? Your percentage?
Where I pick in the Division 1 to 4 junior and into quads, depending on the size of the fleets, I pick a certain number of boats to make the A final. I got 100% right the first time.
Oh, it's a bit hard to beat that.
I average about 85.
Okay.
So we'll see how we go.
Not bad at all.
Yeah. But if you look at most, I mean, I don't spend a lot of time looking, but when you look at the senior events, you know, I go, which is rare, will win, should win, can win, could win, a chance to win, might win, and the same with medals. Most of the ones that win are either could win or can wins or above. I mean, it's not that hard because once you've seen about 2 or 3 races, it doesn't change that much. Yeah. It really doesn't.
No, you I'm sort of seeing a bit more of that since we've been doing this. More insight, obviously, from yourself and Binky especially as well. And you know, you sort of see it's the same names keep coming up, and you know, I mean, it's not. There's so much more to it. We're just looking and go, oh, they're just good, but there's a hell of a lot of work goes into these results. These names don't just keep popping up because they have a bit of natural talent. These names pop up because they work their backsides off.
Mm-hmm. And all of the schoolgirls, I mean, I know we're all rowers, but we talk mainly about schoolgirls. They're all working hard and they're all tired at the moment. I would say we're at that point where a lot of them will be saying, I'm not going to row next season. You know, particularly the ones that might not have had a win yet.
Yeah.
And then they get to Head of the Schoolgirls and they love it. And they're back.
All the pain disappears. It's like, like you know, with the triathlons I do, I can tell you that, you know, half an hour before a race start, it's like, I am sick of this. Why the hell am I doing it? And as soon as you go over the finish line, you forget all of that. It all goes. And I think the same here. You get to the end of the season, the height and the emotions of, especially Head of Schoolgirls being such a big thing. obviously all the discomfort that went into getting you there is forgotten. And and you're back up again. And then you wonder why the hell you're doing it again until you get to that same point.
And both of my girls, I remember them saying, now what? Now, what are we going to do? You know, rowing's finished.
Yeah.
Just on the prediction thing,
yeah.
Just looking at what I said about the single scull event, where we're just talking about Alice.
Yep.
I only had 5 of them that could win. The MLC last scratch. So I had Alice as a can win. She finished first.
Yep.
Ella as a can win. She finished second.
Yep.
The 3 could wins. Lily Rose was could win. She was third, I think.
Yep.
Beatrix was a could win. She was fourth, and the other one was a could win was Constantina. So that's out of.
So you only missed one in all of that.
It's not that hard. I might do myself out of a job. Not that it's a job.
No, I don't think anyone will be able to.
I might do myself out of a hobby.
No, I think you're safe. I don't think you'll be doing yourself out of any job at all.
Alan, every season it's a whole new group.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah. Hey, what's going to be really interesting is our show we're going to do in about 10 days' time. Is how we're going to be able to, because what we're going to do, Alan, we've got to cover all of the, we've got to cover the juniors and the inters and the smaller schools. How are we going to get through all of that? How are we going to?
Well, I would have already done the previews by then, so I'll have as I do tonight. I have all the stuff here.
Yep.
So we don't need to do all of them. I don't think. I only go down to Division 4. And I would have
we
done.
We might want to know more, mightn't we, Binky? We might want to know.
Who's going to win Division 9?
What parents should expect on the riverbank. Yeah. I'll introduce the new parents to what Head of the Schoolgirls is for parents.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. So the parents of the Division 9 kids, they've still got to get up at 5 a.m.
I remember in that. Remember 2021, Binky, when we're all barricaded on the south bank
on the other side.
I can remember sneaking up out of there, and I remember meeting these Division 9 Laurado Turat parents, and the parents, their daughter only did 1 year, but the parents are still in my group.
Yep.
And they were lovely, and they got a great kick out of the regatta, and we had a long chat, and they loved it.
I think we were all so grateful to have a regatta after the previous year's.
The Barwon.
When it was cancelled mid-regatta, and we were all introduced to COVID lockdowns. That was a wonderful celebration, even though we're all sort of cordoned off and not allowed to talk to each other and whatever. We were all just so grateful to be there.
Yeah. Yep. The beauty of sport, beauty of rowing. Beauty of Head of Schoolgirls.
Absolutely.
God, I missed that.
We've missed another bullet. It's 37 degrees next Saturday.
Oh, beautiful.
So how about that?
Beautiful. Don't mind a bit of heat though, but there's a what's the heat policy for the kids? It's a bit light on though. That's the only problem. They
we head up to
early.
Bulla for these hot weekends. That's where I'll be going.
Oh, it would have been. I saw actually some photos on Facebook this morning from Bulla. It looked magnificent up there today.
When Melbourne is sweltering, Bulla is the place you want to be. It's just beautiful.
Absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. Well, we should probably wind this up. We've been chatting for a while. Again, I don't know how we're going to get through it all in this show, but maybe I'm going to have a bell that I'm going to have to ring, Alan, every time you sort of...
Well, have you actually recorded it tonight?
I have recorded it tonight.
There's no pork roast in the oven?
But I've got PTSD, though, to be fair, because I reckon about 5 times during this, I've just had to look at the screen there and go, oh, shit, thank God. Whoops, I shouldn't have said that. Apologies, kiddies. It's late now. They probably won't be listening. But, yeah, I didn't mean to swear. But I did go into panic mode, just thinking, oh, don't tell me I haven't pressed record again.
All right.
But hopefully that's a thing of the past.
If you do that with the Mayor of Geelong, you're going to be in big trouble.
Yes, that's right. I'm looking forward to that. That should be a good little chat. She was very,
if that's the day the thing's transferred to Ballarat, that won't be a very good interview.
Exactly. Yeah, that could be a bit awkward. But anyway,
mate.
I'm sure 10 days away, 11 days away from racing. I'm sure nature will sort us out, and we'll be.
We might have to take down some chemicals.
Drop them in there. Gonna fish it
Agent
like that.
Orange.
Yeah, jeepers. Well, anyway, look, reminder,
Right.
14th of March, 7 p.m, live show on Facebook. It will, of course, be recorded for those.
I better have a shave.
You know, absolutely. Well, me too, maybe. I don't know. No, we're not going to get silly there.
Haircut.
Yeah, people get to see what we look like that
That's
don't
right.
know us. A rose between two thorns. Is that probably more appropriate name for the show?
You can sit in the
Do
middle
we
then,
have to have
Guy.
our camera on?
Yeah, cameras are on. Absolutely, cameras are
Oh
on.
dear.
Don't worry about that. So, yep, no, that should be a bit of fun. And I got a big shout out, Roman Repairs. They are supporting us for this show. And
I saw Rob
Yep.
at the weekend.
yep,
Very
all good.
excited.
Yep, excellent.
He's
He
probably
does a
quite
great
busy
job.
this week.
Oh,
Sorry.
he's flat chat apparently.
Oh yeah.
Lots
And he
of
doesn't
broken blokes
quieten off too. Once the season's over, that's when he gets even busier. When people start fixing all their dinged up boats.
Oh, okay.
Lovely bloke too. And I'm going to have an interview with him very shortly because he's he's done a lot of coaching. He's been around rowing his whole life, and he's very pro coxswains. I know, Binky, you certainly are, and you know he's certainly got a very positive view on coxswains and thinking they should be coached more and what have you. But anyway, we'll hear more from him in due course. But for now, let's wind it up. And next one is, well, we don't have next weekend, do we? We have
That's
a break.
good. Somebody asked me today,
Break.
why aren't I shopping on Saturdays? And I said, I'm at regattas.
Yeah. Well, you got next Saturday off, Alan. There you go.
I do.
Yeah, next Saturday off. But anyway, until then, thanks everyone for listening. Looking forward to our live show, which will be the next time you hear from us in 10 days' time. And we'll see you there. Thanks, Binky.
See you then.
See you, Alan. Thank you.
Good to see you both.
See you later. Have a good one.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.